Welcome to Conquering Your Clownfish, a podcast dedicated to transforming disabilities into special abilities. I'm your host, Brady Murray. Welcome to the Conquering Your Clownfish podcast. I am thrilled to present my special guest, Laurie Hellmann. Laurie is an acclaimed author, podcaster, public speaker, and advocate. She's also a proud mother of two remarkable young adults. In her professional career, she serves as a sales leader for a pharmaceutical company. However, for nearly 22 years, her 24/7 job has been advocating for her son, Skylar, who lives with profound nonverbal autism and Crohn's disease. Laurie has been happily married to her husband for 11 years, who joined their lives precisely when they needed him the most. He adopted Skylar in 2018 and has been an incredible father and partner throughout this journey. Laurie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, there is so much that we get to talk about. I am really excited and thankful for this podcast. This is going to be a very unique episode. I want to start with something that I say often on this show, and that is I believe that we are entrusted with life's experiences. Some of these experiences we choose, some of these experiences life chooses for us. And Laurie, you've had a number of very unique and special experiences throughout your life that probably at the beginning of your adulthood, you probably didn't foresee and say, that's what I'm going to choose and this is my path. But yet here we are and here you are doing an amazing job with these experiences that you've been entrusted. So let's start with just an intro and share a little bit more about you and your story.
Yeah, it's interesting that you kind of led with that. I recently published my second book, and it was about my childhood and growing up. And I get asked a lot, kind of why I revealed some of the things from my dysfunctional childhood and went that route. And it's really because of this journey that I've been on as a parent to Skylar. He has taught me so much more in my 50 years of life than I have ever could have imagined. I get asked all the time how I'm so strong or how I'm able to do all these things with Skylar and forge all these paths that aren't written anywhere. We're just kind of figuring this out as we go. And I never really considered myself strong. And it was because of that question that I get asked a lot with Skylar that I looked backward into my childhood and my journey thus far as an adult and realized, just as you said, that all of the things that I saw as major challenges and unfair gifts, if you will, from God, I just wanted a normal life. That's all I ever wanted as a little kid, is an adult life that was normal kids, whatever normal means, but quote unquote normal. And I was so angry for a long time. And I realize now that everything that I experienced back in my childhood and prior lives, I guess, prepared me for this journey to be Skylar's mom. And I am the mom he needs. I'm exactly placed with the child that was meant for me. And the strength comes from the strength I gained as a child. So I'm able to at least be more patient maybe than a lot of people. I mean, I'm still working on it. And, just advocate and fight hard for him. I'm fighting for the little girl that was me too. So, I just think there's no accidents. This journey was meant to be for him and for me.
If you could share with our listeners the title and subtitle of your book that you're referencing.
Sure. The first book I wrote is about our autism journey with Skylar. It's called Welcome to My Life, a personal parenting journey through autism. And then my second book that I just published in September of last year is called Selling Vegetables to Drunks. It's lessons I learned as an alcoholic's daughter. And people ask me, should I read them in certain order? And they're kind of part of a series. Not really. I mean, if you want to read about our autism journey and then finish that book and go, wow, that's a lot. Like they do a lot with a child that's profound like Skylar, then you can kind of see where that comes from in the second book as me unveiling all of my childhood experiences. And maybe that's why I am the way that I am, the good and the bad.
I think that that's such a beautiful example and really a foundation for who we are as caregivers, as parents, entrusted with these amazing and oftentimes difficult children, but yet amazing children. And
Mm-hmm.
so you, as I had shared, and this is something that I just loved as I prepared for this podcast, that I could see resonating in so many different places with you, is you don't look at your childhood and say, I was a victim
Mm-hmm.
and I wish that never happened to me. You look at your childhood and you say, I am so thankful that this transpired because it prepared me to be Skylar's mom. This was a preparation. These were life experiences that were entrusted to me to ultimately fulfill really my full potential as a mother and caregiver to Skylar. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's absolutely fair. And my mission is to help other parents like us on this journey with a special needs child to find our ultimate purpose. For a long time, I fought against being an autism mom. Like, I didn't want that as my only identity, but it's in that identity that I'm able to, I feel like, take everything in my life experience and put it all together, put that puzzle together. And my ultimate purpose is advocacy. It really is. Whether it's writing or talking or podcasting or whatever, I just want to help other people not feel that they're victims of their circumstance and figure out what their purpose, what all that was leading to. So, yeah, I mean, that's exactly how I describe my life the way you did.
Fantastic. So going back a little bit into welcoming children into your life, you have Skylar. You also have an amazing daughter, Kendall, that was just a couple years younger than Skylar. You really see this diagnosis developing in those first few years with Skylar's autism, and this is a pretty severe case. This is a scenario where he's definitely has some unique challenges, as do all children, but Skylar definitely has some things that he faces. In this time, a short time later, you also go through a divorce and you're a single mom. And so this is a dark time, or at least I have to imagine that this was a dark time. Can you walk us through what that was like, of becoming a mother, receiving diagnosis, and then ultimately becoming a single mother?
Yeah, I think too, that's the beginning of recognizing my strength and taking my own power back. I would never say that our divorce was because of autism. It definitely played a factor. I mean, most marriages don't make it when you have children with profound needs or any kind of a major family crisis like that. But I just know that I am a strong, again, advocate, and I didn't want to do this journey alone and married. So that's how I felt. I felt like I was doing this all by myself, even though I was married. And I just did not want either of my children to see that that is how a relationship should be, that you just are kind of ships passing in the night and you're roommates and you just have to stay together, especially my daughter. I did not want her to see a relationship like that. So it took me about a year to really like sell myself that I could do this, that I could manage Skylar's special needs. I mean, they were 3 and 5 at the time, so they were smaller. I mean, the aggression wasn't as bad because he was a tiny little thing, but I just knew that no matter what, being a single mom was going to be beneficial for the three of us versus staying in that relationship that just wasn't really healthy. So that's what I did. And I think putting my children and myself first in that scenario is what led me to finding Josh, or Josh actually entering our lives. I wasn't looking for him. But I get asked this a million times every time I do a talk by a lot of single moms in the room, because unfortunately there are a lot of single parents navigating this special needs journey. How I dated or how I did anything. I really didn't. I really didn't. Like, I resigned myself to the fact that I would be a single mom forever. And that's okay as long as my kids were safe and protected. I'm used to putting them first, and I think most parents do that. So yeah, I mean, it was a challenging about 5 years of being single, and then I think it opened the door to being open to my husband, my now husband, entering our lives, and it's only been for the better ever since then.
I'd like to talk a little bit about Josh. And so, you went through I just I have so much admiration and so much respect for you, and also maturity and foresight, and I believe just divine guidance in your heart, because all too often it is not logical. It doesn't pass the smell test. It's not a 1+1=2 equation for a mom to make the decision to become a single mother and raise her child who has some severe challenges in the special needs realm, and then her beautiful little daughter as well,
Mhm.
and be able to do that alone. And yet you did that. And so you followed that in your heart. You felt like that was right, and you put you and your children first. And then you went into this time of 5 years where you were acting in that space, and you were doing great in that space. And then enters Josh. And so Josh is awesome. Josh is an amazing, amazing man. Can you tell us more about Josh?
Yeah, we had a mutual acquaintance. We're both marathon runners, and we're both in the pharmaceutical world. And a physician that is very close friends with him, and I talk more details in my book, my first book about it. But he introduced us, and Josh was kind of in a place in his life too that he was just burned out of dating, and he was kind of like, eh. I mean, if you want to give her my number, that's fine, but I'm not gonna really pursue her because I'm just not interested right now in dating that much. And so we just connected on social media and then, texted a little bit or whatever. At the very first meeting, we had lunch and I told him all about Skylar. I mean, he already knew I had kids because in this world, you can stalk people on social media and see about their lives. And I always, anybody that I met out, I would always lead with that because I wanted to see
Totally.
their body language. If they flinched at all or hesitated at all, I knew it wasn't really for me. He didn't even bat an eye. I don't even think he acknowledged that I said any of that stuff, but it took me a really long time. Long for me, I feel like it was like 6 or 7 months before I even let him meet the kids. I say selfishly, I really liked him. And I thought the minute he actually meets Skylar, it's a difference than explaining everything, that he's going to be like, oh, this is a lot more than I thought it was. And then he'd be out of our lives. So I did invite him over for dinner, and he had called our friend and was so excited to meet the kids. And I almost canceled it. And our friend said, please don't do that. You're going to devastate him. But Skylar didn't go back then, even now, really. He doesn't go to people. He just kind of sticks to himself. But as soon as Josh came to the door, he went right to the door and grabbed his hand, took him to his
Wow.
bedroom to show him his toys. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And they've been bonded ever since. He likes Josh more than me, clearly. I mean, they are bros. Yeah. I mean, it was just an instant connection with Kendall too, with my daughter too. He says that he always kind of had a feeling that his family would be made this way, that he would meet someone with kids already. He has no children of his own. He wasn't married before. He's kind of a diamond in the rough, really. So yeah, and then we have been married about 11 years, and he adopted Josh, as you said, or adopted Skylar, as you said, 18. So yeah, he's one in a million.
It just is like, this is to me like the ultimate happy ending, and such a
Yes.
tender mercy, and what an amazing, amazing blessing for you, and so well deserved with how much you persevered with faith and with optimism, and just a belief for a brighter future as you traveled and navigated through some pretty turbulent waters. But now you're in a place where you are truly what I would refer to as serving the pain that you know best. And so going back, you've been entrusted with these life experiences. You now have this son. You never wanted to necessarily be an autism mom, but now you're really embracing this journey for the purpose of empowering and inspiring other families like ours to be able to win in this journey, to be able to succeed in this journey. Tell me about the work that you're doing right now, and in this space, in this community, and what you'd love to be able to see in the future as well.
Yeah, I do. I just feel like it's my duty to pay it forward, really. When Skylar was first diagnosed back in 2006, there really wasn't Facebook. There wasn't all of this stuff that we have now.
That's right.
I'm so happy that we do have podcasts and social media and things. Although there are times it's negative, there's so much more positive, and to be able to connect with their families. And I hear from so many who have 7 and 8 year olds asking me, since we're in the adulthood phase now, what was this like? What did you go through with this? And I'm always very careful of, I explain our experience as just our experience. I never try to say things like, watch out, puberty's really bad. Ours wasn't. And I don't want people to be set up for all of these, humdrum things that are coming, and to devastate them ahead of themselves. I'm doing a lot of speaking. I'm hopeful through my blogs and writing and my podcast that I'm reaching out to more people. And connecting more people to each other that have very similar aged children or similar circumstances, just so that no one feels isolated and alone. That's the hardest part of this journey. I still think and feel
Most
that we're
definitely.
just by ourselves. And there's so many more people that can't relate to our lives than can. So just, I'm trying to broaden it to people who don't live this life so that they understand and they can help us. There's so
Mm,
much more that people can do. It's
yes.
always seems like it's the special needs families that are doing all the things when we need people to help us because we're exhausted and we don't have
That
any money anymore and we don't
that
have the connections. So I'm
that
trying
makes
to
so much sense.
broaden
And
that. Yeah.
I think that much of the advocating that transpires, let's say on social media, etc., not all of it, but much of it is actually more towards support towards each other and towards our community. But what I just heard just resonates so much with me with what you're saying in seeking to educate and inspire those that are not in the special needs community to grab a glove and get in the game and be
Hmm.
able to help. It actually reminds me of a post that you did. I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to read this. So on Instagram, you posted something in November that just resonated so much. I'm going to read this right now. It says, while November is most notable for recognizing all that we are thankful for and gathering for a huge meal with family and friends, it is also a time to honor and celebrate caregivers. Did you know that November is National Family Caregivers Month? I sure didn't. Sadly, just like most of our tireless efforts supporting and advocating for our loved ones each day, the national acknowledgement often goes unrecognized. All too often, we family caregivers are living in isolation and rarely get a break. Please listen with both your eyes and ears when we respond to your questions about our well being. We are conditioned to be tough and not appear overwhelmed or needy. So, despite what we say, we aren't always okay or fine. Please don't tell us how strong we are in the midst of a breakdown or that you could never do what we do. Instead, a warm, silent hug would speak volumes and mean the world. We don't want to be admired, but would appreciate our feelings being validated. Perhaps rather than observing us from a distance in disbelief, you could offer a helping hand. Being a caregiver takes a significant toll on our mental health, emotional, and physical health, particularly those of us with little to no outside help. If our tone is short or we seem in a rush, we ask that you extend us grace and several prayers because it's likely we are struggling in ways you may not be able to understand or relate to. For each and every caregiver doing the hard, often underappreciated work day and night, I see you. I applaud you. I understand you. I am you. What a great post.
Thanks.
I just think that resonates so much. And I'm curious in your journey. And so with Skylar, has there been instances where you have had maybe, I'm positive you've had some of the more challenging circumstances in public and people and the looks and different things like we all experience. But has there been scenarios where you have had a stranger or someone who you didn't really know well that did come and was that person for you and being able to see you and maybe giving you that hug with no words or an ability or a willingness to be able to help and actually grab a glove and get in the game? Have you had any of that in your life?
Just a couple instances. They're usually when we're in public. We don't have any family here nearby, so we have never had respite outside or family in his entire life. So we've always been on our own. Skylar needs assistance eating, showering, doing all the things. So when we go to restaurants with him, we always go to a couple that are his main places and they all know him and everything. A few years ago, we were there and we're just kind of oblivious to people around us. We're just kind of doing our thing. And it was our anniversary, Josh and mine. And of course, we're always forever a party of three, as I call us, inseparable party of three. So we were at a dinner with Skylar and I was sitting next to him, feeding him. And it was in a booth. And then there were booths just kind of up above us a little bit. And I guess the entire time this couple was watching us interact with Skylar and, joking around and helping feed him and all of this stuff. And they stopped us before we were leaving and they said, I'm so sorry. We weren't trying to like eavesdrop or just kind of stare at you guys, but we've been watching you almost the entire time. And you're just such amazing parents to him. I mean, clearly they could see that he needed a lot of support and whatever. And it was just them taking the time out of their meal to acknowledge just what we do every single day. That is, it's normal to us. That's our normal. And we've had people purchase our meal before. It's kind of the same thing. And they're like,
Yeah.
your meal's covered, that couple over there. And then they'd come by and say something. I mean, that's always really kind when people do that. But I mean, I just feel like almost I'm oblivious to the world around me too, because I have a mission. Like when I'm going to Target or something and I've got Skylar with me, I know exactly what I have to do and get in, get what I need and get out. And I don't have time to really watch other people's reactions, or if they stare. I just have to do my thing, live my life.
Yeah. Laurie, if you could wave your magic wand, what would you want those interactions to be when you go to Target? What would you want? So let's say there's listeners that are new to this space that don't have any understanding of what a family, a mother, a caregiver would need or want in this circumstance. And they have a deep desire to get in the game and help. What would you want?
Oh my gosh, no one's ever asked me that. I think we would all just like to feel welcome at places, even at church. When we take him to church, the few people who walk by, a lot will, just kind of walk by and smile, almost like a pity smile, like, "Aw, I see you guys," and that's it. And then a few others will walk up and say, "Hey, what's your name? And I see you guys here all the time," and just ask us questions. But I think out in public too, at stores, it'd be so nice if, I don't even know how you would identify this, but if someone that worked at the store could kind of come along with me and like help me get what I need, or ask me what I need, and then like take me right to the items where they are. I don't know, just some sort of help to get me out of the store. Similar to, I think, doctor's offices. It's taken years for me to try to get them to understand that they need to send all the paperwork to me ahead of time. I can't fill out a form when I'm constantly hanging onto Skylar's jacket, like, no, because he'll wander away. I can't write while I'm holding on to him. So there was a way that stores could, like, maybe they already are doing that with the call ahead orders and stuff, and you just sit in the car and they bring it out. That's been pretty awesome. And I have to go in. But yeah, I don't know. Aside from that, I think just even asking us if we need anything, seeing us and then saying, "Hey, do you have it? Okay. Or do you need me to run and get something for you?" instead of you having to go to the back of the store. I don't know.
Those are two incredible examples. Those are great examples. And those are actually things that can be done. And my guess is that the doctor's offices and the stores, that doesn't even register. Mm-hmm. That's not even something that is an idea that they have thought of or that they've even considered, but it is very applicable. You think of going to Target, if you could somehow call ahead and be able to say, "Hey, we're going to be here," and you had your own personal concierge helper to be able to go with you, and you come in and you're doing your thing and you're sending them to this aisle to grab this and helping you with the cart over here as you're grabbing Skylar who's trying to escape. I just think that might be a really amazing service. And then same thing with the doctor's office. That just seems like such a very simple box that they could check that would mean the world to families. And honestly, I'm even thinking of families that don't have necessarily a child with special needs, but just like a couple of kids that are rowdy and climbing all over. And it would be great if they could do that paperwork before they got there. And that would just be an efficiency as well.
Because I know that my biggest anxiety comes when there's something that I have to do with Skylar by myself and Josh is out of town for work or something. Even when I'm out of town and he has to do that, we're like, ugh, how am I going to do this by myself? Like, taking him to the doctor is a big one, or just taking him anywhere that I absolutely have to go to that place. I don't have a choice. Like, how am I going to navigate this with him? So then you think about all these single parents who do this every single day. They don't have a choice for the spouse to watch them. So I just think that would go miles for families that don't have any help.
I'm going to ask you a hard question. Maybe you've thought of this, maybe you haven't. But Skylar's 21, 22 years old right now. Is he almost 22?
Almost 22, yeah.
Look at his future and you look at the role that you play in his life as a caregiver. When you're no longer able to be his caregiver, can you talk to me about your feelings about that and your
that's
thoughts?
been my thought for the last probably 5 years or so. About 16, I started really planning and trying to figure that out. And that's when you asked earlier, like, kind of what does your advocacy and stuff look like? That is it. I'm talking to parents every day who have children older than Skylar, same age as Skylar, just getting up there to 18, and how we age out of services at 22 and 49 of the 50 states. And just that is the crux of what's broken. I mean, there's so many things for the younger kids, early interventions and all of this stuff, which is fantastic that's improved over the years, but we fall off a cliff at 18 and worse at 22. And I do think about that. It's something that we lose sleep over because I can't live forever. Aside from that, praying every day that I could, I know I'm going to be a lifelong caregiver. And I also don't think I can do this when I'm 80, shower him and feed him and change his pull-ups and all of that stuff. It's just, I don't know how feasible that is. So I know, like you said too earlier, other parents in this bubble that we live in have started housing associations, or they've built things. They come up with models, and we're all kind of sharing ideas on try to figure this out. So we are actually moving. I took, probably 2 years researching everything I could think of in every state. And I did podcast episodes with parents of adults and younger autistic children about in their state and what the resources and the services are and the funding and the waivers and all of the things. And I narrowed it down to 3 states, and my husband and I are moving to Colorado within a handful of months. This has been about a year in planning, because that is the number 1 state in the country that I have found numerous times for adult services. There's just nothing where we live. There's nothing.
Let me see if I can guess the other 2 states, California and New York.
California and Minnesota.
Okay.
Yep.
Good to know.
And so, yeah, I mean, they're not the cheapest places to move to, but, we just, my daughter's in college and she understands that this is Skylar's adult lifetime. She's got hers now, and she understands our need to move, but we don't really have a choice. And I know there are a lot of people maybe listening and families that are like, oh, we can't afford to just uproot our family and move. We really can't either, but we're figuring it out. We're making our jobs move, and we're just making it work. But he deserves a chance. And even more than that, we deserve a life. Like, I always felt guilty for even thinking, like, what about our marriage? What about our empty nesting that we're never going to get? What about just our futures and retirement and all the things that we kind of wanted to do? And I think we can have both of that if we can find and create a place for Skylar to live with caregivers that help us out. I'm not saying I want to just I'm not at that place where I want to place him and then I don't really have anything to do with his care. I want to do a combination of that. Someone that comes into a home that we buy for him, and takes care of him and gives us a few days off, and we trade with them so they don't burn out too. That's kind of my master plan, but that is my focus. And I promised every follower that I have that I am going to share every detail of our journey. Our Social Security moved from this state to that state, the guardianship process, registering with that new state, all of the things that I know you do too with your organization. I owe it to them to explain how easy or uneasy this is. And if it's uneasy, we'll figure out how to fix the broken system.
This, what a courageous decision, and
Scary.
what a very scary decision, but yet it's par for the course. Laurie, you're an individual that can do hard things, and you find a way, and you are a survivor and you're a thriver. And I especially love that it's not just about helping your family to get to a place, to get in a position where you can thrive even more, but your whole purpose and motivation behind this is to be able to set the example and be able to forge the path and be able to make that path easier for families to follow. And that's ultimately the example of a leader and somebody who is definitely planting seeds for whose trees you don't plan on enjoying the shade. And you're doing amazing work. And that just doesn't surprise me knowing your background. And so
Thank you.
I want to thank you for your example. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast. What a great episode. Very unique episode, and such a powerful and inspiring episode that I know our listeners will definitely benefit from. So thank you, Laurie.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conquering Your Clownfish. If you liked what we discussed on the podcast today and want to continue the conversation, please visit us at conqueringyourclownfish.com. And please don't forget to subscribe.